Sobek in that guarding position, but now heading into picks and bans here. My Guys does have first pick here. They have a lot of options here. Normally they like to get a good start for Wolves in that side lane, but I wouldn't be surprised here if they also focus on Transonics getting ahead.
Cloud up against a couple of his former teammates. Last season it was under Team Allegiance that they spent the majority of their time. Transonics and Wolves, Cloud all on the same team. Now on opposite ends of the game here this time around. Gonna have to see who gets the better of who. Toth and Zeus, 2 bans away from Covey from My Guys, who's really risen up to be one of the better mid laners in the SCL very, very quickly. Sylvanas and Izanami are gonna have to answer back to this Medusa, which could go to Covey, I suppose, in the mid lane, but I really expect that's gonna be for Transonics.
More than likely. It's a very slippery snake there on the side of Medusa. Transonics likes to outplay a lot of people, and that's gonna give him the opportunity to do so. Once he gets that Fatalis online, he's gonna have superior movement speed with that passive.
I really like the Susano pickup for Era Attorney, not only because Susano is a great pick in this current meta, but it takes it away from Chaotic Purpose, who absolutely can carry on that assassin. Hercules going to be the selection here for My Guys. Could be a Brochacho god, though. Haven't really seen him play it at a competitive level in a while. Probably for Wolves over in that solo lane. And there's another god that Chaotic Purpose loves to run around with in that jungle, the Awilish.
And I like the Hercules pick here against the Ymir. Whenever those walls go off, you can easily boulder right off of that. It could turn a team fight on its head, depending on the timing of that excavate. But now it's going to get locked in as the Vulcan. Has to be really careful about the gods you select now against the Awilish. You don't necessarily want to pick Scylla, where you're going to get plucked back into the fight. So you have to be very mindful about that.
Ghost is going to have a tough time in the Hunter role, picking something that doesn't have a jump to not make sure he doesn't get pulled back in by that Awilish, like you mentioned. Truancy on this Vulcan, probably his most comfortable god, the god that he's had the most success with during his limited time in the SCL, so I like this selection for Era. See that ban of Odin, definitely looking at Wolves and both Brochacho, who can play it as well. And it opens up this possibility for the Guan Yu. A little bit of sustain for Era here.
I like the idea of the Odin ban, considering Era could have picked it next, but they didn't want to deal with the Awilish pulls from the Odin, so they're going to ban that away, take the Guan Yu. We haven't seen this god in quite a while. Still has big impacts in teamfights with the sustain. You just have to make sure you don't fall behind too early in the laning phase.
Guan Yu's initial viability started on the console scene, so it's only appropriate that after he's fallen from grace on both the PC and console side of things, it's console the first one to pick him back up.
Ooh.
Artemis here
Very
for
spicy.
the dual lane, and Habwa in the middle lane for Covey. He likes these all-in sorts of gods. Lots of console mid players really seem to like to play aggressive with a god like Habwa, and paired with the Khepri, it goes very, very well, Tolik. You can count on Brochacho to get his mid laner out of danger.
This seems like a very all-in aggressive composition from Era Eternity with the Guan Yu, with the Vulcan, trying to cavalry charge into that back line. You're going to have the long-distance Vulcan to follow up. And I like the idea also of Artemis against the Medusa, because obviously you want to get a CC immune god that has an ultimate that it gives you CC immunity, but also you don't necessarily have to be facing Medusa to use it. For example, the On Her wasn't banned. You could use the Desert's Fury to hit the Medusa, but if the ultimate comes out from Medusa, whether or not it stuns you, it's still going to do that 100% damage, whereas now Fatal Ghost can still turn around and use the Abort.
For me, Toli, this draft really centers around the young homie and how well he can play in the team fights, because you look at the side of My Guys, there's a lot of gods that have a lot of trouble with that Ymir wall in the jungle. In fact, it's only Chaotic Purpose that can get up and over it. So if Era is able to find the fights in the jungle that can really allow young homie to find the walls, that could be a big turning point for the Red Squad.
And that was a very early Ymir pick in the draft for Eternity. They wanted to make sure that they find it, to have a little bit of a flex pick in between the solo or the Guardian role. It did go in the way of young homie, going for the Health Chalice, surprisingly enough, against the Hercules Ghost, though. He's going to get wrapped around. Transonics is here, but popping the health potion preemptively. Ghost juking 2 of those 3 shots.
Then Transonics actually goes into the Viper shot instead of the Acid Spray, trying to get a first blood potentially onto Ghost. Brochacho doesn't want to let him go. He's going to get as much damage in as he can. Certainly going to hurt the wave clear of the Medusa Khepri lane, going for Viper shot and Abduct instead of the usual Rising Dawn Acid Spray combination over there.
I also would have liked to see Brochacho to stop in-handing the Fatal Ghost on the Artemis, because the fact that the potion was already ticking anyway, you might as well let the heal go all the way forward and use that necessary damage to be able to help out clear the wave and get to these purple and red buff invades a little bit quicker.
Ooh. On the right side, Wolves finds an early first blood onto his former teammate, Clow. not off to the best of starts in the support role. Wolves gonna put him in the ground for the first blood. My Guys off to an early lead over here, and Hercules is really the scariest, I would say, once he reaches the mid game, but that base damage on Driving Strike is enough to really make you worry about him, even at this stage of the game.
And it's not just Hercules in the early game you have to worry about. It's also Chaotic Purpose on this Willish against the Guan Yu Ymir. Ymir has a lot of damage in the early game as well, but Guan Yu not so much. So definitely losing that matchup early on is Eternity. They had to respect the inferiority of their own composition and just concede the wave under their own tower.
Looks like both solo laners got a blue buff to their name on these left side mid Harpies. Truancy and Clow might be in a little bit of trouble here as Covey wraps around Truancy, forced to use that Purification Beads, but it's not going to matter as Covey able to cut off the escape there from the enemy mid laner. An early 2-0 lead for My Guys.
Great positional rotation from Covey, making sure that he caught the unexpected Vulcan. And now that's also going to be beads down for another 140 seconds. Could look for even more plays. Wolves, I love what he's doing here. He's just basically buying time for Young Homie, even striking him outside the tower.
Yeah, nowhere for Young Homie to go in that scenario. He'd only had that mark of the Vanguard. Is going to be able to pick up a teleport here, but My Guys certainly just throwing their weight around early on. 2 kills on the right side of the map. Wolves with a kill and an assist. This is basically best case scenario. You get your Habwa a little bit ahead with a kill early on. Wolves has been a part of 2 kills, as has Chaotic Purpose. So really the entire mid and right side pretty far ahead. Marsleezy over here trying to get a little bit of extra damage onto Wolves, but I don't know if there's a whole lot of kill potential here, Tolly, but a great wall from Young Homie might open the door.
Found the ice carpet, but Marsleezy backs on out of there, not wanting to follow up with great timing as well, because Chaotic Purpose was around that corner. Not hitting level 5 as Marsleezy, so therefore didn't have the Typhoon really to confirm the kill. Same story goes for Young Homie, but the damage was inflicted onto the Hercules. He has to back off under that tier 1 tower and use more of those potions.
Yeah, basically all out of mana here for Young Homie in the solo lane, no longer having that blue buff after being put down by Chaotic Purpose. Does have the health chalice there to heal up any sort of poke damage, but the mana pool pretty low.
Which is interesting to see because a lot of Guardians of the Soul Lane will elect to go for the mana chalice instead. Ooh, Chaotic Purpose. He eats the Typhoon, but it wasn't fully charged. Doesn't find the knockup, doesn't find the kill.
Needed to be fully charged there for Marsleezy to find that one. I think that's why we saw Chaotic Purpose hold that jump for so long, because he knew it wouldn't have been enough damage if Marsleezy fired it right away. Calling him the jungler for Era Eternity's name quite a bit early on in this game. Formerly known as the Mollusk, has spent a good amount of time in the PC Challenger Cup scene, as well as a little bit of time on Aware Gaming in the last split as well.
Brochacho in the mid lane, left alone, going to take a little bit of poke damage in return, but the fact of the matter is, doesn't matter at all. He clears the wave, he walks on safely because the mid laner Covey had to go clear out the jungle camp, and you might as well take that opportunity to get some solo farm, and supports are always loving their solo farm.
And that's a great sort of difference between Brochacho in the early stages. We'll get back to this as the speed buff getting invade. There's the pull back on to Marsleezy, but the Purification Bead saves his life for the time being until the Excavate does a ton of damage from Wolves. Marsleezy is able to make the escape. Not sure I'll be able to say the same about Young Homie. There's the Vulcan ultimate, but it's just a little bit too far into the speed buff as Brochacho claims the life of Ymir.
Oh, on the backhand side, Marsleezy was thinking about going back in. Chaotic Purpose is very low, but the meditation from Brochacho topping everybody on out. Wolves will be credited with that blue buff invade as a result. Now, My Guys doing wonderfully so far. The 5-minute mark off of their 4 kills. Already running away with the game, I would say, at 1,800 gold lead.
Transonics trying to invade this red buff on the left-hand side. Marsleezy and Clow coming to support their Hunter on securing the red buff, but Brochacho doesn't want to let them have it for free. Won't be able to steal it away, but a good attempt. We're going to talk about how Brochacho during the relegation period and even the first week here of the SCL was falling a little bit behind in farm. We saw him sitting at level 4 a little bit too long a lot of the times, putting My Guys a little bit behind because teams were recognizing that and punishing him for it. This time around, a distinct difference in the way he's playing the early game, and I think this benefits My Guys more than it hurts them.
It's also the difference between playing an aggressive god, such as the Ares, which he's normally been doing before in the past, to now playing this Khepri, trying to get those levels. He's going to be way more useful, making sure his teammates will be staying alive instead of relying on all these early rotations, trying to find the early kills. He's just managing to make sure that the early plays that everybody else does on his team will be met by all the resilience resiliency from his abilities instead.
Well, he's got a lot of resiliency and a lot of levels at level 7 right now, matching the top level for Era Eternity, both the mid laner and the hunter, sitting at level 7. Clow up onto the horse, trying to find the stun onto Transonics. He will do so, but Fatal Ghost is so far away, it's not going to matter. Does force out the ultimate from Transonics, who will also have to back here, trade out ultimates, as well as forcing Transonics back to base. That's a win for Era Eternity. Meanwhile, on the solo side, Wolves takes the tower right around 6 minutes.
Transonics wasn't worried about that, gang. He knew that the last raid would create enough of a distance away from Fatal Ghost that even if Cloud connected on every single hit of that cavalry charge and the stun, it wouldn't even provide the kill. Even still getting hit by the third ability of the Artemis was not enough to take out the Medusa's life. And I like the fact that he held on to his ultimate and his beats for so long up until he really needed to, trying to deter Fatal Ghost away from the action with that ult.
Fatal Ghost, a new name to the SCL, had a pretty good performance, I would say, up against the defending world champions in Obey Alliance week 1 in their matchup up against Era Eternity. Like I mentioned, they did have to forfeit one of those games, so we only saw one of those 2 games, but looked pretty strong up against Air Cougar and company, so definitely a name to keep an eye on as we move forward into this very, very young SCL season. My guys up a pretty commanding 4-0 lead at this stage in the game. And this is pretty bad for Era Eternity, I would say, because this composition for my guys doesn't really fall off with this Hebo damage late game.
No, not at all, and can set up a lot of opportunities as well with the knockoff for maybe even the ultimate from Kavi, or what he could do is set up the pull initially from Chaotic Purpose with that gravity surge.
Transonics has made the rotation all the way over to this right-hand side. And Era, this is classic Clow. He loves to try and sneak away these Gold Furies. It will fall pretty quickly, but the response from my guys is quick enough. Fatal Ghost plucked back in, has to use that Caledonian Boar. Chaotic Purpose around the backside, trying to pick him up, and he will. The 3-man knockup from the Typhoon, not quite enough to stop the jungler from putting Fatal Ghost into the ground. 5-0 early on here for my guys. Gold Fury next on the list.
A risky call, but it was still a great call because of the fact that their speed buff was getting invaded. The Vulcan ultimate connect going to help out a little bit. The blink in, the Gold Fury still gets secured by my guys. Transonics trying to chase down Marsleezy with Chaotic Purpose.
But Marsleezy is on Susano, who's very low. Love this play from Brochacho to ensure that Covey isn't going to get picked off from a stray Stormkata or anything of the sort. Still a clean score sheet for my guys. No deaths on their side. They steal away the Gold Fury as well. We're only 8.5 minutes in, but it's already a 5,000 gold lead for one of the top teams here in North America.
Eternity recognized that the speed buff evade was about to happen, so that's why they initially went for the Gold Fury play, because like they thought to themselves, okay, they're going to invade our speed buff for the second time in a row. It didn't work out well for us the first time trying to defend it. We're probably not going to be successful this time around either. We might as well get something on the left side of the map, but my guys are smarter than that. They're not even going to take the bait. They're also going to prevent you from doing what you want to do.
Just showing the experience that they have across multiple roles. Brochacho been in the SMITE scene for quite some time, playing a little bit on the PC side of the SPL, now on the console, and finding some certain success here with my guys. He's wrapping around the backside on the solo. Cloud trying to zone out Covey, but he's not going to be able to get there to help out Young Homie. Plucked back in. There's the abduct. One more shot's going to do it. The ultimate, or excuse me, the pullback from Wolves wasn't there, but the knockup from Covey was. 7-0. My guys continuing to put the pressure on. And Transonics, this is standard Hunter play. As soon as you see your team fighting on the solo side, you rotate to the mid. Now you're there to pick up any lost farm, as well as rotate to the fight if needed.
And having this transcendence with a lot of physical powers, allowing him to destroy that tier 1 middle tower. Doesn't find it because of the nice rotation from Eternity stopping that one out, but still getting the damage necessary. Brochacho finding Cloud with the root, forcing out the ultimate because of the just the fear of the abduct afterwards. Can find so much additional damage with Chaotic Purpose and Covey.
Not only that, but the water spout from Covey would have set up that gravity surge for Chaotic Purpose. I really like the quick decision making there from Cloud, but Young Homie, he's gonna have to make a quick decision. It's not going to matter what he does. Chaotic Purpose picks up his 4th kill early on here. Scarab's Blessing onto Covey, and it is enough to pop that ultimate, but Covey's still safe for now. There's the Excavate, just doing a little bit of damage to Fatal Ghost, who's over here trying to make sure that Marsleezy can get a speed buff, but even with the numbers advantage, Era can't make anything happen. Vulcan ultimate not going to
Vulcan ultimate on the wrong area towards the Fire Giant instead of the blue buff. My guy's getting away with that one, stealing away the speed yet again, finding a nice pick onto Young Homie. It was a great play, and that boulder wasn't necessarily just to do damage onto Fatal Ghost. That was more of a zoning ultimate from the Hercules player just to make sure that Covey was going to stay alive. And the ultimate from Brochacho kept Covey alive there also long enough to make sure that the jet stream couldn't be used as a teleportation device for Marslezi.
The Era Eternity here, they've got some talented players, totally. I mean, we've seen Clow, Clow wins a LAN. He's excellent in the middle lane. Always has that shot calling ability, whether the team follows up on his sort of individual calls and maybe unconventional is the word I'm looking for. It certainly worked for Allegiance in the last season, so you know he's got potential there to be a primary shot caller. Truancy has shown that he can play the mid lane before. Young Homie has been around a little bit in terms of coaching that old Allegiance team. Maybe not as a player, but certainly it looks like Era's. It's going to take them a little bit of time in order to find their synergy. Fatal Ghost uses the purification to get out of that gravity surge. So this is still early in the season for Era Eternity. This is not a, I don't know if this is indicative of where they are in terms of the rest of the North American SCL, because I truly believe that My Guys is far and away top 2 along with Obey Alliance.
Still having a lot of time in the season. Truancy getting caught out of position. Great play, sticking together as My Guys, finding another pick. Not giving up any deaths in return. 9 and 0. 8 of those kills, all by Chaotic Purpose.
Just blanking the opposition. Era Eternity, no answer quite yet. We are only 12 and a half minutes in, but that gold lead is not getting any smaller. Totally. Marslezi forced to use purification due to the abduct from Brochacho, as well as the Typhoon. Just making sure he's okay. Tier 1 tower is not 7,000 gold now almost for My Guys. And the second gold fear of the game hasn't even respawned yet, Tully.
No, not at all. And just the threat from Brochacho is keeping the Susanoo at bay, running away from the danger. Even forced to use the Typhoon defensively, afraid of the potential aggression coming from My Guys. They're already up almost 7,000 gold here at the 13-minute mark with a second gold fear respawning in 10 seconds or so. This is going to be probably the next objective for the side of My Guys. Even keeping Wolves here on the right side just to potentially steal this with Excavate.
He's here. The rest of the team is not. There's the Excavate, but it will still go the way of Era Eternity. They at least get something from this engagement. Wolves not afraid to push forward all by his lonesome here. The rest of My Guys in tow, ready to try and make this engagement go back in their favor. Chaotic Purpose playing as aggressive as he likes to. That's his typical play style. He's always willing to hold forward on that thumbstick towards the rest of the enemy team. Surprised we didn't see My Guys just go for the Gold Fury, allow Era Eternity to get that 150 gold for each player and pick up the bigger objective. Instead, they just want to fight.
Especially considering they had the timer, but oh, Marslezi gets knocked up this time. He's going to get credited with another kill. Chaotic Purpose doing a great job with 6 kills, 3 assists. He has the Hydra's Lament finish. He has the Heartseeker for more mobility. And this is going to be really scary for Era. He's 3 levels ahead of Marslezi.
Yeah, really difficult to deal with at this stage. And the Fire Giant is actually the call here for My Guys. 14 minutes in. It's just a bait, though, as they wait for the Young Homie to walk in and nowhere for the Immobile Guardian to go. Transonics gets on the board, the last one to do so for My Guys. Now every one of the 5 players with a kill early on in this game. Fatal Ghost still on the left-hand side, and the rest of Era Eternity. I mean, Truancy has ult here. Maybe they can contest, but it's a delayed engagement. The Fire Giant already gone. A big ultimate, though, from Truancy could do enough damage to make someone fall, but it's not because of the meditation from Wolves coming out, making sure everyone's still nice and healthy. Cloud tried his best, wasn't able to steal away that Fire Giant. Less than 15 minutes in, a dozen kills from My Guys, all 5 members of Fire Giant. This is tough.
Well calculated by My Guys doing this Fire Giant. Not even 15 minutes into the game that they started it. They saw the fact that Fatal Ghost was on the left-hand side. They recognized that that damage wasn't going to be there. Whether or not Truancy's ult stole the Fire Giant or not, that was a nice calculated risk from My Guys. They have a huge lead now, heading almost 10,000 experience, over 7,000 gold. And now with this gold, the second Gold Fury going to be secured. Nobody from Era even close.
No, and you see how fast it falls. Even if anyone was in the vicinity, Era would have had no opportunity to respond. Chaotic Purpose has just really dictated the pace of this game beautifully, as has Brochacho. Brochacho has been everywhere the action is, basically except in that solo side of the map, in the mid lane, in the duo lane, and the ultimates have been on point as well. 1, 0, and 9 made a part of 10 of the 12 kills for my guys. Era Eternity take a little bit of time to knock down that solo tower. Give themselves a little bit of much needed farm. Wolves caught out a little bit. There's the trap in from Fatal Ghost, but look at how much damage Wolves is doing to Ghost instead. A fully charged Shards of Ice still not enough to bring Wolves below 30% HP. Fatal Ghost very, very low himself. The Vulcan ultimate not gonna hit as Covey picks up the enemy Hunter.
Doing a lot of damage with that ultimate. Wolves is not done yet. Using his sustain with the mitigate wounds, using that Fire Giant as well. Covey with his second kill of this skirmish. Wolves is trying to find somebody out of position. He has a shield of regrowth potentially to use that movement speed, but Chaotic Purpose hasn't been in this team fight. He's been split pushing
this whole time, and there's been no response from Era Eternity quite yet. Marsleazy's here now, but it's just too late. He can't even try and fight the level 16 of Willish coming out of the jungle for my guys. Tier 2 tower on the right side falls as well. A quick 3,000 gold my guys gain. That pushes their gold lead up beyond 13,000. That experience difference, even higher than that, 16,000 in terms of the XP. Last tower of the game, it's gonna go down right before 17 minutes.
I love what Chaotic Purpose did on the left-hand side. He didn't actually want to back. He just wanted to see if whether or not the Susanoo would potentially stop the back and take the one-on-one fight from Chaotic Purpose. Sometimes a lot of players will do that kind of fake bait idea, and with that, not sticking or sticking around rather, finding that last remaining tier 2 tower on the side of Era Eternity. That Titan is going to be exposed a little bit further now, and this lead is getting outrageous and out of control. 15,000 for my guys.
This is one of the cleanest SMITE performances we've seen in some time, I would say, totally.
Absolutely.
Across both regions. I mean, my guys just dictating the pace across the map. There have been a couple instances where players get low, and Brochacho's always there to save them with the Scarab's Blessing. The draft executed to perfection, and Era Eternity just never really had a chance to be the aggressors in this matchup.
And you're talking about how clean they are. They haven't even went for any Phoenixes yet with their Fire Giant. They're just extending their goal lead. They're going to probably wait for the second Fire Giant before these Phoenixes get sieged even further. They want to make sure they also have some waves, potentially getting a little bit closer to those Phoenixes before they really try to end the game out here.
I mean, basically every roll is 2,000 gold down from their opposition, and that's basically a full item. It's very, very close to a full item. Very difficult to deal with that. The blink in from Chaotic Purpose, a Feather Step as well, immunes the stun from the Caledonian Boar. Chaotic Purpose doesn't even need any assistance there from Wolves. Soloing Fatal Ghost underneath his Phoenix at the 18-minute mark. 7, 0, and 5 for the jungler, and my guys just dominating the opposition.
Using the beads just to make sure he wasn't going to get disrupted from that solo kill with a 5-on-4 power play now, not having Fire Giant, but Wolves is leading the charge, taking up the Phoenix for a little bit. The ultimate coming from the Vulcan, going to hit out Kobe, doing a respectable amount of damage.
Typhoon coming through, going to knock up a couple, but the Phoenix is going to fall. Chaotic Purpose will as well. It's Era Eternity finally on the board. Brochacho couldn't quite find that Scarab's Blessing in time. 15-1. Now, Era Eternity able to pick one up, and it's Marsleazy who answers back onto the oppositional jungler. But still, 19 minutes in, a 15,000 gold lead. Fire Giant due to respawn in about 23 seconds. It's going to be difficult. There's a good fight for Era Eternity to take, except for the Petrify from the level 19 Medusa. Just does half of 2 members of Era Eternity's health bars. And Transonics is just going in, no fear at all.
This is the kind of mobility that he likes to have with the Fatalities. Marsleazy jet streaming towards the middle. Phoenix Wolves is distracted by Fatal Ghost instead. They pull not on the mark. Kobe looking for the water sprout. He finds it. Wolves doing a good job. He's not done yet. He was thinking about going even further if he wants to. The middle Phoenix fell. Left side is getting looked at here. The wave is getting a little bit closer.
Trying to get it in there, but Wolves is still level 16. He's able to tank it up. No problem whatsoever. Left side Phoenix gonna fall fairly quickly to the hand of Transonics and the rest of my guys. Chaotic Purpose has respawned. He's on the way. Looks like Gold Fury is going to be the call here for the blue team, who's up 16-1. We have passed the 20-minute mark, and I wasn't sure if Era Eternity was gonna see 20 minutes on the clock. They have, but I think their time is pretty limited here, Toli.
Absolutely. This lead is just insurmountable that has been built from my guys. Honestly, they would have to AFK for 5 minutes, and even then, they'd probably still have a 10,000 gold lead.
Well, on the right-hand side, we could see our Eternity try and sneak away a Fire Giant, as my guys thought they were going to go for it. That seemed like the Clow call to do, but And I really wouldn't have minded it. Like you mentioned, I mean, there's just not a whole lot Air Eternity have in the bank to try and get down a gold lead like this. Stealing away a Fire Giant and sneaking it away puts you equivalent to 10,000 gold behind, so it's still tough. Either way, Air Eternity just content to farm up their buffs, take what they can. And I imagine during this time, Toli, this is where you start talking about what we did wrong, what can we draft next game, you know, what are you having for dinner afterwards? There's a whole lot of stuff you're talking about, just not a lot of it's about the actual game.
You want to go to El Trompo later?
You always want to go to El Trompo.
That's a pretty good spot. Oh, the ultimate from Vulcan doing a little itty-bitty damage, insignificant to Wolves. So zoning out, though, is Chaotic Purpose, as the rest of his teammates is going to be able to secure that Fire Giant. Nobody from Eternity wants to even contest this. Chaotic Purpose, he finds the young homie.
0, 7,
he was too
1.
out there.
He was too out there. I think we can both agree on that. Left side Phoenix is down, middle Phoenix is down. Brochacho and Chaotic Purpose are 2v3ing underneath the middle Phoenix, at least where it once stood. The rest of my guys is here. Looks like they're not even worried about that right side Phoenix. They don't have a Frenzy. I don't think they'll need it. They're going to focus down this Titan.
Oh
Kobe
my goodness.
blinks in and one-shots Truancy with Crushing Wave, just adding some insult to injury against the enemy mid laner. 21 to right around 22 minutes in a very, very clean, dominant performance from my guys. They take it over Air Eternity in game 1 of the